So let's talk about the left when it comes to activist economies. You said, Michael, that you feel that we are witnessing the beginning of the end of capitalism. So then we think about the left and this activist economy. What do we need to see in terms of that practical, we have to make it happen moment? What does that look like for you?
I don't want to get stuck on the same-sex marriage thing again, but this has been on my mind a lot the last couple of weeks. President Obama did not take that position because he just woke up one morning, or because Joe Biden, made him do it, and Joe Biden didn't take that position just because, he ate his Wheaties that morning and felt strong and secure. They came to that position because of a relentless effort amongst the people who have advocated for equality and for justice and for non-discrimination, and did not give up after 2004, and pressured and pressured and pressured and pressured him to the point where he couldn't go against his conscience anymore. That's got to be a horrible feeling for him, because give the Republicans credit. They have a good sniffer, and they know that he has probably felt this way for 20 years, maybe longer. So imagine if you believed in something for 20 years, really believed in it, but had to say the opposite for 20 years. What does that do to your soul? It makes it easier to give in to other things too, or to go along, to not take a stand. So I think that David Sirota wrote a very good thing that day when Obama made that announcement about that the real victory here wasn't Obama saying it, but it was all of you for pushing it and not giving up and not holding back and not listening to Democrats who say, don't criticize our president, we have to get him reelected. It's the only way we're going to affect change is we have to make it happen. President Obama, the Congress, the others, they're there to represent and serve us, not the other way around. And if the famous quote or incident, it's been said many times in the last year, when President Roosevelt became president, and he'd been president for a couple of years, and a woman said to him there at the White House, you said you were going to make Social Security happen. It hasn't happened yet. You promised this. You were elected in 32. It's 35 now. There's no Social Security. And he said, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. You're going to have to make me do it. You're going to have to really go out there and get the public, because the forces against me, the banks, Wall Street, etc., they've got the power to make sure this doesn't happen. The only thing more powerful than them is the collective force of the American people. Now, Wall Street and the banks in corporate America are not going to give up without a fight. In fact, they've already started the fight long before Occupy Wall Street, as you mentioned, Cornel, that the mass incarceration of people, the ruination of our public schools, so that we graduate whole generations of young people that not only don't know basic things, but are never taught to think critically. And the majority of American high schools now have eliminated civics. That's not an accident. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but in the same way that Time and Newsweek often end up with the same cover, I'm sure they don't get together and work that out. But it's a mindset amongst those in charge that say, we don't want them too smart. That's what Santorum's whole thing about Obama being a snob, because he thought people should be able to go to college and not be in debt the rest of their lives. That really, I think he really resonated with a lot of people who are fearful of knowledge, because knowledge is light into the darkness. It eliminates ignorance. The ignorance, as we know, creates fear. And the fear leads us into wars, creates racism, does all these horrible, horrible things. But once you have knowledge and you're less afraid, you're less hateful and you're less violent and you're more committed to each other. You realize you're part of the whole. So to answer your question, Esther, in terms of some very specific things that I think that we need to do, I think that what I want to encourage you to do is to not wait for Dr. West and Michael Moore to tell you what to do. I believe within this room, and I got to tell you, I walked out here, and I'd never been in here before, and I don't know, I just think it's a beautiful Friday night in New York, it's nice out, who's going to be here? And I was stunned at this audience. I mean, this is an incredible audience here, and I have got to believe that many of you, maybe most of you, have some very creative ideas in your head about what you could do at your school, or at your place of employment, or in your neighborhood, maybe within just your family, to start to turn this around, or to get people to come on and do. And maybe my suggestion has been, in the last 9 months especially, is that we not lose our sense of humor, and that we realize that humor is an incredible vehicle through which to affect social change. And if you don't believe that, you know, because we've all been in the situation where you're at work or you're in school or whatever, and you come in and you start talking about, just pick any subject. Oh, the Palestinians, the Palestinians, and everybody starts to back away from us. Right? It's like, but if we came in with using our sense of humor, our devastating sense of humor, that will strike that nerve that's in them, that nerve that goes right to the fairness button in their heads, in their conscience, I think we would go a lot further. So without giving you, specific things for each of you to do, I just believe that you can come up with ideas of your own, in your own situation, of how to inspire other people to come along. I know in the town where I live, in Michigan, there's an Occupy Traverse City movement. There's a few hundred people in it. It's amazing to see that there's only 15,000 people in the town, and yet there's an Occupy movement up in the far north of Michigan. And on Saturdays, they've had these very creative demonstrations in front of the Chase Bank and the Bank of America branch, and they do street theater. They go in to perform citizens' arrests. And every time they do that, it gets attention, but it also, to the average non-political person, the person who isn't an activist, but who we need to make this change, right? When they see us behaving this way, it looks like fun. And you remember high school, right? You wanted to be around the person who was fun to be around. You wanted to be around the person who, had a sense of humor. You didn't, most of us. I know there are some here that thrived on veracity and, and maybe I did for a while.